Hi, everyone. Welcome to the FSGA interview series. I have two very special guests with us today. First, my name is Kyle Walkowitz. I'm the director of junior golf for the Florida State Golf Association. And this is probably the biggest, maybe oldest rivalry in the state of Florida. But today we're coming together for the greater good as friends, and we're here to talk a little bit about college golf, junior golf, specifically on the girls' side. Again, these two very special guests, head women's golf coach at Florida State University, Amy Bond, and head women's golf coach at the University of Florida, Emily Glaser. Ladies, thank you for taking some time out today to chat.
Thanks for having us.
First things first, let's get a little background on you. Amy, we'll start with you. Give us your background, kind of what got you here, how you got into golf, how you got into coaching.
Wow. Okay. So I grew up in Ocala, Florida, so I'm a Floridian. So I'm very proud of that. And one of the interesting facts about me is my entire family graduated from the University of Florida, except for me. But that's okay. That's why it's, University of Florida is a special place. I just chose to attend Florida State. And actually, I spent 5 years here. I redshirted my first year and then managed to go ahead and graduate in 3.5 years and work on my master's degree. So that was a great thing for me, was to go ahead and get my master's while I was still in school and playing golf. So Florida State afforded me that opportunity. And when I graduated, I turned professional immediately and played professional golf for 4 years. The closest I ever came to getting my LPGA tour card was my first year. And I missed it by a shot or two, which was actually great because I was not prepared for what professional golf had in store for me. So once I didn't get my card, I just played on the Symetra Tour for 4 years. But 2 years into my Symetra Tour career, my coach from here, Florida State, called and said, "Hey, would you be interested in being my assistant coach?" And I said, "Well, can I still play golf?" He said, "Well, I don't know. Let's ask." So we asked the administration, and the administration allowed me to play golf in the summer and coach in the winter. So it was great because I was able to do both. I was able to travel the country in the summertime, play golf, play the sport I loved, and then come back here and coach. Well, I soon realized that I was probably better suited as a coach than a player. So I came back here. I was an assistant coach here for 5 years. And then in 2006, became the head coach at Princeton University. Very different from going from Florida State to Princeton. Princeton didn't have any scholarships, athletic scholarships. So that was a different world. Spent 4 years there. And then thankfully I got to come back and coach at my alma mater. So in 2010, I returned. So I just finished my 10th season back here at Florida State.
Emily, give us a little background on you.
Okay, I'll try to condense it. So I'm a Midwesterner by birth. I grew up in Ohio. My parents own a golf course in Upper Sandusky, Ohio, that's been in our family since the 1930s. So I was one of those that kind of grew up with a club in my hand, but probably didn't start taking the game seriously until maybe 13 or 14. Played my college golf at Michigan State and graduated from there in 2002 and also turned pro. I played for 3 years on the LPGA and then 3 years on the Symetra Tour as well, kind of intermingled there a little bit. And similar to Amy, I just kind of, after about 6 years of professional golf, I just was ready to do something a little bit different. Just the grind of tour life was not exactly what I was after at that. I'm certainly glad I tried it, but it wasn't really exactly what I had in mind, I guess, at that point in my life. I actually thought I was going to go to law school. That's what I had thought I was going to do after professional golf. I was studying for the LSAT, kind of getting ready to go a totally different direction. And I was living in Raleigh, North Carolina at the time. The assistant coaching job at Duke University was open. And Duke is a very historic storied program. I thought, well, I'll just go check this out and see what this is all about. And I went and interviewed with Dan Brooks, and he hired me. And so I got into coaching at that point. Still thought maybe law school was, in my future, but really fell in love with coaching while at Duke. Ended up moving back to Florida about a year later with my now husband. Was the assistant coach at Florida for a year. And then when the coach at that time left, I was promoted, and this is going to be my 9th season at the University of Florida. Time flies. So that's a little bit of a background.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So, what have you gals been up to since school got shut down and we're in this state of isolation? What are you doing to stay busy?
Emily, you want to start this time?
Sure. Yeah. So I will say that I'll start with the positives. I have a 4-year-old daughter. I've been able to spend a lot of time at home, quality time with my family. I think that as coaches, that's one thing that we sometimes don't get because we're on the road a lot, whether it's with our team or recruiting. So I've really tried to, from a positive aspect, really appreciate the time that I've been able to spend at home with my family. Try to be really present, while I'm there, and really enjoy that. We've been obviously still staying in touch with our teams. I'm sure Amy's the same. A little bit limited on what we can do because they're all over really the world at this point. And we're doing a lot of Zoom calls and things like that, but trying to stay connected with the team and start to plan a little bit for the fall. I think we've gotten some positive news here in the last couple of weeks about the possibility of playing golf this fall, the possibility of coming back to school. We're hearing some positive news. So that gets you excited. I think gives you a little direction on, what might be ahead, and is certainly motivating an anticipation of people coming back in August.
Yeah, and for me, it's kind of been the same kind of stuff. I mean, I put my suitcase away 12 weeks ago, and I don't think I've done that in all of my 18 years of coaching. But it was put away, and we too have been keeping in contact with our team via Zoom, as they too are all over the world. But at the same time, me and my assistants are working on ways in which we can improve the program. Normally, we're traveling and we're gone all the time. We rarely have downtime. So we're trying to work on a few things that we're going to institute in the program in the fall to just kind of make things a little bit better. We're getting creative with some practices and stuff like that. So it's allowed us the time to do that. In the same respect, the great part is I've neglected some house projects over the last 3 years. And so I've been able to kind of mark those off my list. I mean, I've waited 3.5 years to paint the inside of my fence, but I can assure you that it's done now, and I'm very proud that it's done and done by me. So that's been the nice part, the positive part. Obviously, it was disappointed to cut our season short, but I think there's a huge amount of positives that have come out of this, both as a program and as a person for me.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that. Obviously, it's not the time that everyone wants right now, but positives out of it is the only thing you can do. So it's good to hear that you both are doing well, your teams are doing well, and you're staying in touch. And I know that the NCAA has a stoppage right now as far as allowing you to go recruit at any events. Have you heard anything? Do you know anything about when that possibly, it's probably, I'm assuming, maybe you can tell me a little better, going to go through this summer, probably into the beginning of next school year when you get your kids back and you can do stuff. They'll probably allow you back out, but is there any inside info you can give us on that?
All I know is that we can't go out recruiting right now through July 31st.
Okay.
The outside chance, I think we could start August 1st, but I'm not so sure that's going to happen. And again, I don't know anything for sure. Emily, I don't know if you know anything. That's kind of where we coaches are. I know there's going to be another vote by the NCAA coming up here in June, but I foresee us not being able to recruit all summer.
Okay. What are good ways that you, without being able to go to an event, what are some ways that us as a state association or players can get information to you? What can be done to help you find talent in this time where you can't go out and physically see it?
Yeah, I think that even though we aren't going to physically be there, we are certainly going to be watching. Golf stat fans, live scoring fans. I think that, that's going to be really important. We'll still be paying attention to all the events that we would have planned to have been at. It's social media, that's one thing I think that helps us be able to still recruit and tell people about our program, and vice versa, players that we're recruiting to be able to see what they're up to as far as playing and practicing. That's a good way to, stay involved and in touch until we can communicate, with recruits.
Yeah.
Going into recruiting, when that day comes, when you can go back over past experiences while you're out there, what does a typical day in recruiting for you look like? What are you looking for when you're out there on the golf course assessing? Coach Bond, you can go first.
Okay. A typical day for me would be up early. Golfers get up early. That's what we do. So get up early, get out to the golf course, watch a little bit of the warm up, kind of get our bearings. If we don't have the tee sheet ahead of time, we grab the tee sheet, kind of go over it to see which direction I'm going to start for that morning. Don't really do a whole lot as far as watching the warm up, just kind of see what their work ethic is. Kind of maybe the pattern in which they're warming up, do they putt first? Do they hit on the range? What kind of warm up they do. And then typically I'm out on the golf course all day long. When you're looking at these big golf tournaments, you're talking about, anywhere from 30 to 144 players.
Right.
So that's a big group. And we're typically, we might have two of us, but most of the time I think we're by ourselves. So we're trying to see as many players as possible. And then what the players do afterwards. I mean, that's a typical day is we're there from sun up to sundown, seeing what the players are doing, how they're handling their business and things of that nature. And then once we get on the golf course, we're looking for a lot of different things like attitude, how do they deal with adversity. I like to see a player fail a little bit. I like to see them make a bogey. Make a double even to see how they react to it. I think those are important things that we're looking for as coaches. At the same time, we're also looking how they interact with the players in their group. Are they respectful? Do they throw clubs? Things of that nature. So I'm going to stop it at that point because I'm sure Emily has some more additions to make. I don't want to go through all of it because I think we're pretty similar in how we do things.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, every day is probably a little different in recruiting. Every tournament's a little different. Typically, I think you'd start, if you're at an event, it's because there's someone particular there that maybe you've gone to watch. But that doesn't mean that the day, might lend itself to something a little different. So you're watching that player and then you see somebody else. Hey, that's a good golf swing. I'm going to watch this kid for a couple holes, or I'm going to, move around the golf course. So I think even though you probably have a plan, a little bit of a plan to start the day, a lot of times you can find yourself, watching someone else or on the back of the golf course and kind of going a different route. So, but just, I agree with Amy, trying to make the most of our day, watching all the people that you can for as long as you can and getting around the golf course to see all the different players. That's kind of the interesting thing about recruiting and why I think for kids to play in tournaments is so important, because you never know the time that you're going to get seen, that you're in the right place at the right time and it happens to work out. So I always think any competition is good competition and would encourage kids to play as much as their family situation allows them to, and those types of things. So, and I agree. I think it's certainly much more than golf scores. I mean, that is, the brass tacks of what gets you noticed. If you can shoot low numbers, somebody is going to notice that. But I think in the longer I do this, I realize the importance of looking at the big picture of recruiting. It's really more than just the numbers. It's about who's going to be a good fit for your program, what kind of character they bring to your program. And so you're going to be looking for those things in addition to good low scores and great mechanics. You're going to be watching, like she said, how their attitude is. How do they interact with their parents? Are they nice kids? Are they respectful to the people they're playing with and the others around them, the volunteers. We pick up on all those types of things, I think, especially the longer you do this.
You kind of answered the next question I was going to ask. I was ask you how a player kind of makes themselves stand out, but, based on their character, the work ethic that you can see, how they act on the golf course, a bounce back from a rough hole. Is there any experience or anything that happened in your past that that jumps in your head here that where a player just pretty much blew you away where they were on the golf course with something they did? Is there a specific instance that you can give us to kind of lend to that?
Let's see. I mean, there's a lot of happy accidents, I would call it, where players that you had no idea who they were until you walked up on them. You might have been watching another player in the group, but they kind of, just jumped up and surprised you. I think for me, and I've said it numerous times, especially this year, we had a player on our team, Amanda Doherty, who just graduated. And Amanda was a cold call. She called me on the phone, got me late one summer afternoon where I just happened to be in the office. Had no idea who she was. She was from Atlanta. No idea who she was, never heard of her, nothing. She talked 100 miles an hour. And I said, look, if you make the U.S. Junior, I will be there. And it was in Flagstaff, Arizona. And she made it, and I went and watched, and the thing that impressed me more than anything, because she's about 5'1", just a little tiny one, but so powerful. And the thing that impressed me the most was she was a little bulldog. She wasn't going to let anybody beat her, nor was she going to let the golf course beat her. So for me, that was a changing moment, because she's the first player that I've ever recruited from a cold call. And so she wasn't going to take no for an answer.
She actually, I remember her because she came down and played in a junior event of ours. This had to be like 2014 or 2015. I don't know why that stands out to me, but she came down because she wanted to play against the best kids in Florida. And she came down, and I believe she won the event that she was at, and didn't play in much more of our stuff in Florida after that. But I guess she came down because she wanted to prove that she can compete with the best kids down here, and she certainly can. We
like grit. Grit is what we want. So that's my best example.
Coach Glaser, have anything?
Yeah, I don't know that I have a specific story that's maybe that good, but I do think that it works out that way a lot. I think recruiting is, there certainly are times where you're going to see a kid once and know that they're going to be the right fit, or it happens to work out. I think for others, it's a longer process where you are seeing a lot of the different skills that Amy talked about that are important. And so those stories are awesome. I think that should inspire all junior golfers to know that, you never know when your moment's going to be. And you're really, you're looking for that right fit. And so the more you can showcase yourself and put yourself out there, like your player did, Amy, and just calling you and picking up the phone and putting yourself out there, I think then the opportunities start to present themselves when you're willing to do those things.
I'll stay with you, Coach Glaser. How important is it for a junior golfer to put themselves in those pressure situations, and speak a little bit of what they can learn from that? You mentioned seeing somebody make a bogey, like in those failure situations, there's a lot of learning experience that can come from that, especially at this age. Talk a little bit about, as a coach, you want to see the person, how they act, how they persevere through a pressure situation.
Yeah, I think that it's hugely important, and Amy touched on it. Sometimes you have a bad hole and you think, oh no, I missed my chance, or that coach isn't going to want to recruit me. And really, I don't think it works like that, especially for Amy and I, who both played golf. Golf's hard. We know that things happen. So it really is about how you handle that adversity, because when you come to college, it's just a whole new set of challenges that you're going to be up against. You're on, an unfamiliar place. You're trying to, maybe you're not the best player on your team anymore. You're balancing school and golf. So all of those things are going to be, potential for failure, potential for adversity. And so it really is important for us to do our best in the recruiting process to try to determine how someone would handle that. I don't think any good coach has the expectation that a player isn't going to fail or mess up or make mistakes. It's pretty much what it's all about. It's just how do you handle those things? Myself included. I think that's the thing I've learned about coaching the longer I've done it is coaches make mistakes too, so how are you going to handle those things? What's your communication skills like so that, we can do the best we can to make sure that we keep getting better, even when we run into those pitfalls. I think it's important. It's what it's all about. And people who want to aspire to play professional golf too, I can speak to what it's like at the next level. It's the same thing. It's just a new environment with a lot of the same sort of challenges. And so really building that skill of how you handle adversity is hugely important.
Coach Bond, we'll jump to you as regards to, this kind of blends into that same topic, mindset, and we all know how important the mental game is in golf. Obviously there's arguments that it could be more important than anything else. Speak on how you can analyze when you're out there recruiting, how you analyze someone's mental game, their attitude, and how do you coach players to keep a positive mindset?
Well, the first thing, when we're walking around, we're obviously watching their characteristics, their attitude, how they're dealing with stuff. Sometimes you see the players kind of get upset with themselves. Okay, that's a mental piece of the game. In golf, there's going to be highs and lows, and how you handle those highs and lows are really important, because one minute you can make a birdie and the next minute you turn around and make a bogey. So what are you going to do with that? So we just kind of watch their course management. Are they a kid that is really using the golf course to their advantage, using their skill set to their advantage? Those are ways in which we can see that mental part, how they're thinking their way around the golf course. And I think for us coaches, that's what we spend a majority of our time on, is teaching kids how to maneuver their way around the golf course. Golf is such a game that we always tend to focus on the negatives rather than the positives. A player could come off the golf course and have shot 62, and the first thing they come off and tell you is, I missed that putt for 61. These are the little things that golf, it plays with your mind so much. So some of the things that we do is we make the kids give us some positives from their round. I don't care if they shot 75 that day and they're super upset. They did something well. Emily mentioned it earlier. Golf will beat you up badly. You actually lose more in golf than any other sport. I mean, it's rare. You only get one winner each week. So it's really important as a golfer to really focus on the things you're doing well, even the baby steps. If you're not a very good wedge player, and let's say you're working on trying to hit it inside of 15 feet, and you look at your average for your golf tournament, and your average is, 30 feet away. The first tournament that you go out and maybe it's 25 feet average, that's good. That's an improvement. So you got to focus on the things that you're doing well. Work on your weaknesses, but if your weaknesses are just getting a little bit better, I think that's a good thing. So those are kind of the ways we do it. The mental part is hard. I mean, if I could go back and do it now, I'd get a degree in psychology. I would, just because that plays such a huge role in what we do. But, the biggest thing, I think the biggest piece of advice I can give a kid is stay positive. Work on the little things, but stay positive and take your small victories.
Right. Okay, I'd like to get both of your thoughts on this next topic. It's basically when a junior is applying, when they're looking at programs to apply for, when they're looking at that next step into college. We all know that, I think we can all agree that academics should be the number one priority when you're looking at a school. But outside of that, maybe golf specifically, I'm a junior golfer, I'm looking to apply to a school. What should I be looking for in that program, in that school, when I'm beginning my search?
I think a really important thing is the people that are going to be around you. I think if I were going to prioritize, I'd probably put that at the top of the list. because you're going to see some similarities in academic offerings, training table, facilities, things like that. There's going to be a lot of similarities between programs. I think it comes down to the people that you're going to be around. What coach do you want to play for? Who inspires you? Who you think can help you be a better golfer and, frankly, a better person in your 4-year, development while you're there? So I think I would probably put that at the top of the list as far as the things that I'm looking for. The thing that I've heard people talk about over the years, and I get it the longer I do this, is playing time. Where do you fit in? Do you want to be a big fish in a small pond, or the opposite? How do you feel? Do you want to be playing all the time, or do you want to be challenged and realize you might not go on every trip? And where is your expectation in that? I think looking honestly at that will also really help with your transition into college and make the experience a lot better, as opposed to being unrealistic and then getting there and being disappointed. So I think those are probably two of the most important. There could be a list of 10 things, but I think those are probably the two I'd put at the top.
And I'll flip the script since Emily answered the athletic piece of it. I'd look at degree programs. Do they have the specific degree program that you're interested in? Because that's one thing that's important, is study what you want to, that you're interested in, what you want to study. I think the other thing is look at weather. Weather plays an important role because we're an outside sport. And also how big the school is. Do you want to go to a really big school, or do you feel like you could flourish at a smaller school? I think those are really 3 other important aspects. But again, it all comes down to, as Emily said, it all comes down to where do you fit in the best. And for some kids, take golf out of it. If you weren't a golfer, could you be happy at that school? And just be a regular student. So I think all of those are important keys, but every player is different in what they're looking for.
Yep, very good insight there. On a scholarship perspective, as Division I programs, how many yearly golf scholarships do you have? I know that it carries through with the people that are still in your program as well. On a general basis, for somebody that's looking for a D1 program to play golf, speak a little on the scholarship side and what's available to those players.
We get 6 total scholarships.
Okay.
That have to last basically at 4 years. I think in our perfect world, you'd have 1.5 scholarships in each class. If you could really work it out perfectly, that would be great, but it doesn't always work out that way. For example, 2 years ago, I brought in a class, I had 5 come in a class. So that may mess up the scholarship money for the next class to come through. So it just depends on the year and what our needs are. If we've got a group of veterans, it may be a little different than if we've got a lot of young players. So I think every year it changes, but once that money is out and taken, they're taken. It's in that class until those kids graduate. So it's an area for us that, again, in a perfect world, we would work it out, but it's never going to be perfect. So unfortunately, we miss out on some great kids just from a funding perspective because we don't have any scholarship money left for that year.
Yeah, I think it's important to know, so with that 6, it's for Amy and I, it's like putting together a puzzle, So some programs, it might be if they have a smaller roster, you could understand that maybe they go 6 people on my team and everybody's on a full ride. Maybe they have 7 and they're breaking one up somehow or something. And so, but it's like putting a piece of the puzzle together is kind of how I view it. The other thing to note is that the NCAA allows us to make multi-year offers. And so sometimes for people, the scholarship amount might not be the same in every year. A lot of times I'll get players or parents who sort of try to predict how many scholarships I'm going to have in a particular class because they see I'm graduating 2 seniors, so I must have 2 scholarships available. And that's not always the case because you are allowed to offer a player a scholarship that maybe goes up every year or maybe it goes the other way or, something like that, just based on the scholarship that you have available, in the span of those 4 years. So It's just important to have communication, I think, with coaches about not only a player's and a family's expectation about what kind of scholarship they're looking for, but then obviously on our end too, what's available, not only in their first year, but then over the course of their time at that school.
Thank you. I've got one more question, then we'll jump into some rapid fire questions, which gets very exciting. Give us a story or an experience that you have, one of your most memorable moments as a coach. And Coach Bond, we'll start with you.
Let's get the hard ones to start on.
Good.
Well, okay.
Yeah, it's fine. I won't hold it.
You're at the top of my screen, so.
Yeah. I think one of the first ones that comes to mind was the national championship at Oregon. It's 5 years ago now. We finished up, we finished 14th. So we made the round of 15, but we didn't make the round of 8. And I gathered the group. We had 2 seniors, 2 juniors, and a freshman. And I gathered the group and I said, hey guys, we can fly back first thing in the morning and be done. And our season will be over. You guys go your own way, your own direction. Or we can go have some fun here in Oregon. Because what I learned is all 5 of those players, none of those 5 players had ever seen the Pacific Ocean. And I thought, we've got a great opportunity to do it, so we're going to do it. So that they decided that they'd like to extend the season a little bit. So we went to the Pacific Ocean, saw sea lions. We actually let them go on a giant dune buggy through the desert, through the beaches, things like that. And to me, that was one of the most memorable things. It had nothing to do with golf after the national championship, but it's one of the most memorable moments because I had 3 of those players say that was the best day of their life. It's at that point that I realized as a coach, it's so much more than just golf. So that's a day I'll remember, and we have it on video because one of them wore a GoPro on that day. So great moment.
Yeah, I think for me, it would be easy to your mind initially goes to some of the great teams or players that you've coached. And certainly 2017 was a memorable season for us. We won the SEC championship and made it to match play at nationals and had a really competitive team. But I'll tell you one of my favorite stories since I've been coaching is about a player from Gainesville, Florida, Taylor Tomlinson, who played in some FSGA events growing up. We played in a tournament in Palos Verdes, California. We elected her to play in the College Am. Northrop Grumman was the sponsor of the tournament. And so we elect one player to play in the College Am, and she's very well-spoken, great kid. So we put her in there. Long story short, they had such a great day. Told her she needs to apply for this internship in the summer. She got an internship with Northrop Grumman. After the summer internship, they offered her a job. So she went into her senior year with a job lined up with Northrop Grumman. She went back and forth a little bit about, should I play as a pro? Should I go take this job? And it was interesting as her golf coach, I thought, I'm probably supposed to be like telling her she should play golf. And really in my mind, I'm going, take the job. It's, it was just an unbelievable experience. So I just think that Amy and I both want to win. We're super competitive. Obviously those things are really important to us, but Taylor's story is one of my favorites because of what a great kid she is, how she used, her ability to be a great communicator and a great person to parlay that into internships and jobs. And just the experience of being a college athlete is so much more sometimes. She was on that 2017 SEC championship as well. So think about that in her career, all the things she accomplished, and now has a fantastic job with Northrop Grumman. Just extremely proud of her, and just kind of a reminder that what we do is certainly we want to win championships, but it's also a little bit bigger than that.
Very cool. Then I know Taylor as well from my summer with the AJGA and then my start here with the FSGA.
Yeah.
So that's nice to hear. Okay, we're going to jump into some rapid fire questions and then we'll close it down. First, what golf course is on top of your bucket list?
Augusta National.
Yeah, I've actually, let's see, I've been there, so I'm going to go with Cypress.
Okay.
Oh, I've been there.
Okay.
So
what are you watching right now? TV wise? Anything?
Oh,
I
go ahead.
I have a 4-year-old. I watch a lot of Disney Channel. I don't get much TV time for myself these days. So
And I'm not much of a binge watcher, but I have my cousin talked me into binge watching Madam Secretary from a few years ago, so I'm watching that.
Cool. Favorite musician?
Rascal Flatts.
I'm kind of like I'm still stuck in the 90s. I'm kind of a grunge girl. So I like Smashing Pumpkins and Pearl Jam. Those are kind of my go-tos.
How many rounds of golf do you typically play? I know you talked about playing professionally and such in the past, but now with coaching and with kids and all that, how many rounds of golf do you get in a year?
Not many, not as many as I should. I'm a 9-holer these days. I say that's kind of, I like that whole Play 9 initiative from the USGA. That's kind of my sweet spot at the moment. So,
And I'm in agreement. I think this year I've played twice, and they were both 9 holes. I only play on holidays, evidently on Easter and Memorial Day.
Outside of golf, what's your favorite hobby? What do you do outside of golf?
I like doing stuff at my house. I like decorating and doing home projects and things like that. I enjoy that.
Coach Bond, painting fences?
Yeah.
I wish they would have been done long before now, I can assure you. No, I think my favorite thing to do is go home and visit with my family, play with my nieces and nephews. Again, we're gone a lot. So anytime I get the chance, I do like to go home and spend time with them. On the water is what I really like.
Your ideal vacation, either somewhere you've been or somewhere you would wish to go?
I used to say that I like to stay home, like a staycation, because we travel so much. But after this quarantine, I'm kind of over that. So I think, like I said, my family's still in Ohio. That would always be my pick, is to go home and visit my family in Ohio.
And for me, we've started maybe 4 years ago. Our family goes to the Blue Ridge Mountains week after Thanksgiving to just kind of relax. So I like the mountains where the cell phone doesn't work for a week. I like that. Just the peace and quiet and being able to kind of slow down a little bit.
All right, one last question. I've been asking it to everyone here. If you could go back in time and any historical moment in golf, where would you go?
You said any historical moment in golf.
In golf.
I think that I would have liked to have seen Jack Nicklaus win the Masters when he was older. I'm not sure. Yeah.
86. Yeah.
What year that
That's
was.
a very popular answer.
Yeah. I was 6 years old then. That would have been cool to see live.
Yeah. I'm kind of a history buff, but I've never thought about it from a golf perspective. But I think I would like to go back and go overseas to watch the very first British Open. My understanding it was at Prestwick. And I think that would be pretty cool just to kind of see the hickory shafts and how they maneuvered that golf ball. Technology has come so far now. I just think it would be cool to watch them, how they maneuvered their way around the golf course with the technology of that time.
Great. Well, Coach Glaser, Coach Bond, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us. We really appreciate it. We wish you the best, and hopefully schools are opening up on time and everything gets back to normal soon, and we can see you two ladies at some of our events here in the future.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.